Hi, hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Monty. I am going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag in today's video. That is a lot of words. This is basically a compilation of questions that helps you to summarize your year in reading thus far. We are swiftly approaching July, and so it's just the time to be doing this tag. I've watched so many people do this tag over the years, and I am so excited to finally be doing it myself. I'm also going to be doing a little bit of a mid-year check-in with my personal 2024 goals at the end of this video. It is a bit self-indulgent, but I feel like it's going to help me to stay on track. And so if you're interested in watching that, it's going to be at the end. Regarding the tag, there are a few questions that just didn't apply to me, so I didn't include them. For example, any of the questions about releases this year, I'm not going to answer. I'm not really hip. I don't stay up to date on what books are going to be coming out. That might change as I get into more series that are uncompleted, but for the time being, I actually have no idea what books are going to be released at the end of 2024 or like in this second half. So I eliminated those questions, and then there are a couple of other questions that I just simply don't have answers to, so I'm not including them in this video. So you can think of this as like a little bit of an abridged mid-year book freakout tag. Wow, what a mouthful. Let's just jump into the questions. The first one is, what has been your best book of the year so far? I had 3 contenders for this prompt because I've had 3 5-star reads so far, so I had to decide which of the 3 has impacted me the most and which one has been top of mind more than the other 2, and I had to go with Ejaculate Responsibly by Gabrielle Blair. I talk about this in my May reading wrap-up, so you can go there if you want a more in-depth review, I suppose. But basically, this is just a really short nonfiction book where the author outlines 28 arguments for why we should hold men more responsible for unwanted pregnancies. Someone quotes on the back saying, "It is fantastic and terrifying and infuriating, but in an important way. It changes your entire perspective." And that's a perfect summary of this book. It is so good. I read it on my Kindle originally, and then I bought the physical copy so that I could annotate it. I actually want to do a whole video where I reread it and I underline and annotate and also fact check this book and do a little bit of my own research on top of what Gabrielle Blair has done in this book. Let me know if you're interested in that at all, because then I will make it more of a priority and actually will it into existence, but I do kind of want to do that. Anyway, I love this book. It is maddening, but it is so good. I read it basically in one sitting, and I know that you can too. Highly recommend. The next question is, what's the best sequel that you've read so far? I have only read 2 sequels. I've actually started a number of series, but only read so far the first book in those series. The 2 sequels that I've read are Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros and then Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings, which is the second book in the Magnolia Parks universe. And then Iron Flame, I feel like needs no introduction. Actually, neither of these books really need an introduction. I hated Iron Flame, so we already know that I'm going to be going with Daisy Hates for this question, and I did really like it, so I feel like that fits the question perfectly. Then we have, what is your biggest disappointment of 2024 so far? And that would have to be The Women by Kristen Hanna. When I think of my biggest disappointment, I'm not choosing a book that I think is bad. It's just a book where I had high expectations that weren't met. And this book perfectly fits the bill. I love Kristen Hanna. I loved every other book that I've read by her so much, and I was really hoping that I would love The Women. People have rated this a 4.65 on Goodreads, at least as of right now, and so I was like, oh, I am definitely gonna love this. I was so excited, and I was just totally let down. But all I can say is that it did not captivate me in the way that other Kristen Hanna books have in the past. Following up my biggest disappointment, the tag then asks, what was my biggest surprise? And for this one, I'm gonna have to say Paris the Memoir. When you look at this book, it looks like a flashy, trashy magazine cover, and I think that's kind of the point, but you don't expect that you're gonna get something so raw and so deep and so introspective when you look at the cover. The book is actually really heavy. Paris has definitely been through some shit, and it was just a total surprise. When I read it, everything was a shock for me, and I really thought that it was well done. And so it's another book that I would definitely recommend if you have been interested in it. The next question is a new favorite author, and for this one I'm gonna have to go with Abby Jimenez. I just read Part of Your World earlier this month and loved it. I loved the writing, I loved the characters, I loved the storyline, and I just think that she's a new favorite of mine. I'm not really unique in saying that, I understand, but I just want to add on to the hype train that if you are looking for a romance that has a little bit more depth to it, I would pick up one of Abby Jimenez's romance books, specifically Part of Your World. I can't necessarily speak to her other books. Then we have a new fictional crush. I, again, am gonna have to go with Daniel from Part of Your World. He is increíble. I loved him. He is good with his hands, and I don't mean that in a dirty way. I just mean that he's a woodworker, and I love a guy who can do manual labor. I just think that is so sexy and so attractive. He's also super kind. He cares about the people in his life. He cares about his small little town, and I just thought he was an utter delight and so hot. So he is definitely my new fictional crush. Then we have a new favorite fictional character, and for this one, I'm going with Landon from Betty. Betty is about a girl named Betty who grows up in this mixed race family, and her dad, Landon, is Cherokee Indian, and he is, oh my gosh, he is such a gem. He's the best dad. He cares so much about his children, and he invests so much time into them, teaching them about their culture and the traditions that he learned from his parents. And I just loved him. He was such a sweetheart. He is absolutely my favorite fictional character that I have read about so far this year. After that, we have a book that made you cry. I don't really cry during books. I have done it very rarely, so I haven't actually cried during any of the books that I read this year, so I'm kind of switching the question a little bit, and I'm gonna go with the book that made me the most emotional, and for that I'm gonna pick Happy Place by Emily Henry. This book absolutely had me in my feels, and it wasn't even because of the romance in the book, it was because of the friends and the friend group in the book that just had me missing my friends, missing the people that don't live close by to me so much. I was thinking about it for days. I was like yearning to be around my closest friends, and so yeah, it made me very emotional. I didn't cry, but if I were to have cried during any of these reads, this book definitely would have been it for me. And in the opposite vein, we have a book that made you happy. I don't think I really read books that make me happy. I actually prefer books that kind of make me feel deeply and feel sad. I don't know, I just prefer books that are a little bit heavier. So I'm just gonna go with the lightest, fluffiest read that I enjoyed this year, and that's gonna be Say You'll Be Mine by Naina Kumar. I saw Shuba read this book on, I think her channel name is Shuba Reads Books now, and she talked about it in one of her videos, and I was immediately interested in it. This is an Indian American romance, and it kind of follows like an arranged marriage trope of sorts, but in a modern setting. And it's really cute, it's really fun. It had a lot of elements in the book that were really familiar to me, like the tradition and the culture and the food and the language and that sort of thing. And so I just had a lot of fun with it. So I'm gonna have to go with Say You'll Be Mine for this particular prompt. And the last one that I want to answer that I'm gonna kind of cheat on, I'm gonna be a little bit of a cheater pumpkin eater, but it's your favorite book to movie adaptation. I don't know if any of the books that I've read this year have been adapted into a film feature or a TV show, but I did watch a TV show this year that did make me cry, and I know that it was adapted from a book, but I haven't read the book. But I want to talk about the TV show anyway, and that TV show is One Day, and it's on Netflix, and you have to go watch it. if you want to bawl your eyes out. I was super interested in watching this because I saw that it was starring an Indian actress and a blonde actor who fall in love, and my partner is blonde and has blue eyes, and I'm obviously Indian American, and so it was just kind of fun seeing this couple depicted on screen that somewhat looked like us, but that's why I watched it, and I ended up totally loving it. And even though I don't cry from reading books, this fucking show got me. So I just wanted to mention it because I really want to read the book. And those are all the questions that I'm going to answer from the tag. I'm now gonna move into my mid-year 2024 reading goals check-in. Back in December, I created 8 different goals that I wanted to focus on for the year of 2024, and we're just gonna see how I've been doing with each of those. Before we get into each specific goal, I did say that I wanted to read 52 books this year, and so far I have read 33, so I am more than on track to reach that number goal. That's not a big deal, but I don't think I actually said ever how many books I've read so far this year, so there you have it. Okay, moving into my actual goals. My first one was to read 50% of my physical TBR. At the time that I created that goal, I think I had 20 books that I had deemed as part of my physical TBR that I wanted to get through, and so far I have read 3 of those books and I have DNF'd 1. I am going to count that DNF towards my number. So I have read 4 out of the 10 that I need to read in order to technically accomplish this goal. I don't think that's terrible. I'm a little bit behind, like I should have read 5 books by now, but that only leaves 6 books to be read by the second half of the year. And I think that is very, very doable, and I will be making it a priority. The second goal that I had was to read more nonfiction. Specifically, I wanted to read 1 nonfiction book each quarter for a total of 4 books this year. And so far, I have only read 1.5. Ejaculate Responsibly was the one that I finished, and then I'm halfway through The Body by Bill Bryson. I did a reading vlog on that, and I was so enjoying myself reading that, and I'm almost 100% sure that it's going to be a 5-star read for me. So I don't know what is holding me back from actually finishing it. That's where we are with that. Because we're talking about it, I feel like I really, really want to go pick up that book now. So this video is doing it for me. Okay, the third goal was that I wanted to read 2 classics this year. So I should have read at least 1 by now, and I have. I read The Maltese Falcon a couple of months ago, and I thought it was totally fine. We're on track with that. Then the next goal I had was to read more series, and I specifically wanted to at least complete 1 full series this year. I have started a number of series. I started The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, I started Mistborn, Magnolia Park's universe, and I think a couple others, but I can't remember them off the top of my head right now. But regardless, I have started quite a few, and so I feel like I am well on my way to actually completing one of those series that I just mentioned. Then my 5th goal was that I wanted to listen to more audiobooks, and I actually have done a spectacular job with that one. Once I realized that I prefer nonfiction and memoirs to listen to, I have just exclusively stuck to that for my audiobooks, and it has done wonders for me. I've pretty much read a memoir every month. I always have an audiobook on dock to listen to while I commute to work, and it is just a grand old time. So we are doing really, really well with listening to audiobooks. Royal we. Okay, and then my 6th goal is the one that I have made absolutely no progress towards, and I'm probably just gonna cut it out of my list, and that one is to improve my vocabulary. This was such a vague goal when I came up with it. I should have come up with a more precise and more structured way of actually improving my vocabulary, but I didn't, and therefore I didn't improve my vocabulary. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just absolutely dropped the ball on this one, and I don't really have the energy to figure out how I'm gonna advance towards this goal, so I'm just gonna take it off my list. I don't want to dedicate any time or energy into it, so we're gonna cut it out. My 7th goal was to read longer books, and I wanted to read at least 2 books that were longer than the longest book that I read in 2023. And I think the longest book I read in 2023 was 603 pages. And the longest book I have read in 2024 was Mistborn, and that is 558 pages. So I'm not doing so hot with this goal either. I've just become so intimidated by longer books, which is why I crafted this goal in the first place, was because I wanted to push myself to read longer books because I enjoy reading longer books. But every time a long book becomes available to me through the library, I do get scared, if I'm being totally honest. I just really need to work out of that mindset, and I don't yet know how. But a couple options for books that can actually help me to fulfill this goal: Seven Eves by Neil Stephenson. I've talked about that a number of times. And then also The Covenant of Water by Abraham Verghese. I'm not sure how to say that last name, but those are 2 books that I would really like to read by the end of the year, and I think that they are both longer than 600 pages. Okay, and the last goal that I had set for myself was to reread more favorites of mine, and so far I have reread The Glass Castle, which is a memoir that I read back when I was 16. I read that earlier this month, but it's the only book that I have reread, so I have a little bit more work to be done with this goal. I think I'm probably gonna reread The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo this upcoming month, so I think that's pretty good. I didn't really specify when I made this goal how many books I did want to reread, but I feel like 2 is plenty, and if I reread more, then that would be even better. Okay, so that's my little mid-year check-in with my goals. I'm not doing terribly, but I'm not doing splendidly either. I'm just kind of doing average, which is fine by me. I'm not gonna add in any goals. I really just want to take out that silly little vocabulary goal, and maybe I'll try to figure out a way to make that a little bit more measurable and organized for 2025. We'll just wait and see on that. If you watched this whole video, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. And that is going to be all for now. I hope you all are taking care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video.